All right. Today is Monday, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is going to be a different recording. I'm going to have to pause a lot already. I'm thinking that's going to happen. It's April 20th, Monday, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is what I said yesterday, the last song on this album. It's called simply In Conclusion. It was supposed to be written like a Bohemian Rhapsody style with not a lot of parts that repeat. So I'm doing the best I can to organize these because what I'm dealing with, to give you a better idea, I woke up a lot of mornings last week and I would just mumble stuff into my phone for like a minute or 2 minutes. Then I go back to sleep or try to go back to sleep and wake up and do it again. And I have about, I don't know, 10 of those short little snippets, and they're all different, but I'm trying to put them together since they all came out in a similar fashion. I'm trying to force it a little bit, but I think I came up with a pretty good flow. So let me try to sing it first, and then I could relax and just talk about what I'm trying to do with this song. I might have to pause, so apologies if it gets a little scattered. I'd rather do this all in one long recording than split it up into like 10 different recordings like I have it right now on my phone. So let me try to start this out. Curious. All right, I'm already forgetting. Hold on 1 second. All right, apologies already. So it comes in almost epic style, like that My Chemical Romance Black Parade. Dun 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 na 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 dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Curiosity killed the cat and the need. Just an art built on weakness, contradiction, glory bees. Certain melodies hit the key of belief or strangle every moment, tragedy, enemy. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Wisdom plans surprise or enlightenment deranged, injured by the fruit of the plastic irony, angelic complex, virginal disquiet, the tainted victory of an animal fright. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Hopefully you get an idea. I don't like how I sang that part. Wisdom plants the prize or enlightenment deranged, injured by the fruit of the plastic irony, angelic complex, virginal disquiet, the tainted victory of an animal fright. So you get the idea of how the song starts on a heavy note. That's kind of the opposite of the Black Parade, actually. When I was a young boy, like that starts out kind of peaceful, actually, and then it gets heavier as the song goes. But I guess I include that song too. The Black Parade's kind of similar to that style. It doesn't have a lot of repeating parts. I have to listen to it again to see if I'm remembering it correctly. I kind of feel like it just has a lot of separate parts that go together seamlessly. All right, so that's the first part. I call those the first two verses. I don't really know what to call each section, but I'm going to have to pause this again right now. 1 second. Okay, and we're back. So after that, dun, 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 it goes into a different section. Until the breakthrough. Dun, 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 play the rebel. Dun, 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 the truth as God. Dun, 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 without the send off. But do 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 until the breakthrough. But do 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 play the rebel. But do 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 a damage refused. Did they send the right muse? So the melody kind of goes different there. Let me do that again. It's a short part. Until the breakthrough, play the rebel. Truth as God, without the send-off. Until the breakthrough, play the rebel. Damage refused. Did they send the right muse? And you could go into another instrumental there. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. So you could get kind of a brief instrumental there. I'm going to have to pause this again because I'm forgetting how each section goes, but I want to get it right so I don't have to keep repeating it over and over again. All right, let me try to do this. Merge the daylight with the arrows and the afterlife. The house always wins until the mind maligns. Lies upon lies, fresh from the bullet blast. And when death approaches, reclaim the light. Merge the daylight with the arrows and the afterlife. So it's almost like a screaming, I don't want to say emo part, but it has a bit of that, to be honest. But there's also kind of a heavier type of groove to that. Merge the daylight with the arrows and the afterlife. The house always wins until the mind maligns. Lies upon lies, fresh from the bullet vibes. Oh, when the death approaches, reclaim the light. And when I have to think of something there that sounds better. That's pretty much how it goes. I don't know if I'll sing that twice or just do it once. I'm just calling that the faster riff. You get the flavor. And I'm going to have to pause this again 1 second. This is one of the more interesting transitions because it kind of goes into like almost like a musical part, a Broadway musical kind of. This is the happiest part of the song. That's almost like dun 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 dun. So you can hear I was probably thinking of Bohemian Rhapsody there when I was thinking of that last riff. And then it goes slower. Dun, dun. Another moon discovered. Another star to blind. Another sword of hunger. Another band to wind. Another few to bank on. Another cause to fade. A level soul to bait hearts. Another claim to sign. Yeah, so it's very Freddie Mercury, Queen type of stuff there. Maybe that's the most rip off of Bohemian Rhapsody, that part. Almost like I see a little, like when he goes into that weird section there. Another moon discovered. It could just be a piano there. Another star, dun, 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 to blind. And you could get the funky harmonies. This is the coolest part so far, I think, because I hear the harmonies now. You could really harmonize a lot of voices for this section here. And the song's almost over after that. Another claim to sign. I think I even changed the key for this part. Another few to bank on. I think I went a little higher for that. But I'm not really sure. in that detail, technical aspect, how I want to do it. But it's similar to how I probably sang it right now. I said before, I kind of like going with the first initial impression of it. And that's what I came up with so far. Another cause to fake. But it's a cool little interlude or whatever you want to call it. Kind of like an intermission to connect the heavier parts. Because let me pause this again. We're going to go into a more heavy section to close the song. 1 second. All right, let me try to get this one out too. So it gets more of that Jack White flavor here. This was the first bit I came up with on whatever morning that was. Rewrite the poor boy, do do do, in this cruel comedy. So it's much more blues inspired. Rewrite the poor boy, do 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 do, in this cruel comedy, do 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 do. Rewrite the poor boy. So you could go repeat that phrase a couple times and then go into a blues solo. Do and kind of make it kind of epic. Because if you're thinking Bohemian Rhapsody, even Black Parade, I think has some cool solo stuff, and that would be kind of cool to include some kind of blues solo here. But after that, you can do your solo and then hold on 1 second. I have to remind myself how the next part goes. Another interesting transition to like a choir. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. And while the choir is kind of doing harmonies on that simple melody, I hear the Jack White voice now. It's like singing the main part. But aren't we all God's children? God's children? Aren't we all God's children? God's children? Whoa, oh, 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 we all God's children. So you got to blend those two kind of melodies together, overlapping. And it doesn't have to be precise. You can improvise things on this part. But I like the flavor of ending the song kind of epic with the choir, with the possibility of some vocal arrangements to really set this apart from the other songs on this album. Aren't we all God's children? God's children? That's probably more inspired by the Kinks. I'll have to share that song too. There's only one more section, so apologies if this sounds really scattered. When I listen to this, I'm probably going to make the decision either to do this again or just run with this, since I am including all the parts. So at least that's all going to be put in the correct order and whatever. And I put this together fairly quickly, to be honest. This morning, I just kind of put things together the best I could. And that's pretty much the last vocal part. Aren't we all God's children? God's children? You could pause there, almost like a fake ending, and hold on 1 second. Alright, so it goes into a fast closing riff to end this entire album on a upbeat, positive note, I think. Whoa, 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 whoa. So that's basically the whole thing, yeah. I'm trying to remember all these parts. It's kind of difficult to remember all these different melodies and put them together like a puzzle. I haven't done this in a while, a song like this. Aren't we all God's children? God's children? So you just let that ring out and have no music for a couple seconds, and then you just go right into that closing riff. Whoa, 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 I'm probably gonna have to put some words there just to end this on something. Whoa, 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 and just have one of those weird endings like that just it doesn't even fade out. I was thinking it would just fade out, but I think a hard cut would be cooler. So you just hard cut, whoa, and then the album just ends like that. I'm gonna come up with a phrase or two just to add maybe a spoken word element to that last closing riff. And yeah, again, hopefully this can kind of convey. This is a very disjointed song that I'm trying to put together to make sense. So I don't know if I was successful on this first try, but at least I'm attempting something a little more complicated. This is not something I like doing because it's way more complicated to remember all these different sections. A song like this is almost like writing an album because it's so many different parts. It's writing a mini 6 minute album because there's a lot of different flavors on this. It'll get easier as I go through it because even Bohemian Rhapsody, you know all the parts if you listen to that song enough, where it seems like it fits perfectly because it does, but it doesn't seem like different sections all put together like a puzzle. It just seems like um, a unified melodic experiment that fit together so seamlessly. I think the Black Parade did that. I think the Decline did that for 18 minutes, which is crazy. And I'm sure there's other songs. I think I mentioned Stairway to Heaven yesterday because of the lawsuit, but that kind of does that too. There's a couple different sections to that song, and it's pretty long. And yeah, that's weird. I'm mentioning Bohemian Rhapsody and Stairway to Heaven, and I probably learned of those songs the first time in my life when I was like 11 or 12 when I watched Wayne's World. I never knew what Stairway was when they're in the guitar store and it says no stairway. I'm like, what does that mean? So I had to look that up. And yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, like I said, came from Wayne's World. And it's cool to see how music stays with you over the years. I was talking about tattoos a couple of nights ago and thinking of tattoos I would get. And if there was some kind of Bohemian Rhapsody tattoo, I might even get that because that's such a memorable song in my life since the first time I heard it. And I'm trying to write in that similar vein right now. The message isn't very like that. I don't think it's the same type of message. I wrote these lyrics in literally less than 5 minutes. They just poured out pretty much. I had none of the lyrics written until right before I made this recording, but I'm kind of lying about that too. When I made those 10 initial recordings on my phone, I was titling them like Another Moon, Rewrite the Poor Boy, because initially I was like, he's just a poor boy from a poor family. I didn't want to copy that completely, even though I kind of did. But, you know, that's a pretty basic phrase. It's not like Queen could copyright the phrase poor boy, Willie and the Poor Boys. So I don't really think I'm stealing anything. But that's probably how I came up with that lyric initially, I guess. But yeah, so I kind of wrote these lyrics very quickly. Willie and the Poor Boys. That's a cool song. I'll share that too, since that just popped in my head. And that's about it. 1, 2, 3. So I don't want to share too much for this. I've shared so many things over the last week, and I'm kind of just strung out with sharing so many of these influences. So I'm sharing the Kinks, God's Children, CCR, Willie and the Poor Boys, Black Parade, My Chemical Romance, Bohemian Rhapsody. I'll find another Jack White song. And there's a band from Texas, I believe, called Ball Maria, and they create these orchestral instrumental ambient albums. I don't think they use lyrics. I don't think they have vocals, but I haven't heard all of their albums. One of the first instrumental albums I ever bought was Ball Maria, The River's End. I think that's what it's called. I haven't listened to that album in years, but it really connected with me. I'll share a song off of that. It's really peaceful. It's good for summertime listening. But they're a pretty popular band. Ball Maria, River's End. I think that's what it's called. Or River's Arms. Apologies. River's Arms from 2008. The second album released by post-rock band. I don't know. I didn't really consider them post-rock. But I don't even know what that means. Post-rock. Such a stupid genre name. Ball Maria. I think that's how you say it. Balmorhea. So I love that album. I think that's my favorite album by them. There's a Constellations album I think they had later on. But check it out. It's really good. I believe they're from Texas. But let me see. Wikipedia, are you going to help me here? It's only four people in the band too. I thought there was a lot of people because it sounds like so many people. Ball Maria, yeah, they're from Austin, Texas. So that's pretty cool. I was just talking about Heartless Bastards yesterday. I think they're from Austin too. And yeah, this gives you a brief outline. This is from Wikipedia. Or it might actually just be called Ball Marais. Sorry. I don't think it's Ball Maria. It's Ball Marais. But I could be saying that wrong too. They were influenced by William Ackerman, don't know him. 6 Part 7, don't know that. Tortoise, Rachel's, well, Gillian Welch is listed. Max Richter, I think he's an ambient guy. John Cage and Arvo Part. I've heard of Max Richter. I think he did like an 8-hour ambient album called Sleep or something. It was pretty cool. Yeah, he's kind of a minimalist ambient composer. So yeah, he's a pretty interesting guy. I don't know his stuff too much though. I feel like he's done a lot of like soundtracks and stuff from looking at his Wikipedia. So yeah, I listed Ball Maria because I was while I was going through one of these melodies in my head, one of those mornings that they kept popping up. So I'll share something from Rivers Arms, and yeah, go check them out if you like instrumental music. I know that one band has taken over everyone's imagination, and I'm going to say their name wrong, the Algene, and I shared one of their Algene de Potrin, that Montreal band. Yeah, I don't know how to say their name, sorry. But that's not really the type of instrumental that Ball Marais is. It's very peaceful. At least this one's so peaceful. That's why I like it. And it plays into this song. I don't know if I accomplished it as I wanted to originally to make it kind of all over the place like Bohemian Rhapsody does. I don't know if I accomplished that where it goes up and down with different emotions and different tempos, but I believe there's enough here to not mimic, I never want to say mimic, to kind of compose my own version of a song like that has different sections. I do that with instrumental music sometimes because that's how I put songs together. And then the lyrics and melodies will come later, vocal melodies. But I've never really put a song together like this where I was like, yeah, let's make a Bohemian Rhapsody song. And I don't know if it's successful until I really listen to this again and try to break it down and memorize it more. But this is the blueprint, so it's good enough for now, in my opinion. And I don't think the lyrics are actually that bad, even though I wrote them in my manic state, and it took about 5 minutes to write this. Um, I feel like the lyrics kind of portray a lot of the feelings throughout this album, where people are just tired of bullshit. All people. It's not a certain political tribe or religion. Everyone just wants transparency in life. Nobody wants to be played like a fool or a bitch. Nobody wants to be played or lied to or manipulated. That's the cause of all the problems in whether in smaller communities or globally. Nobody wants to be manipulated and treated like that. That's the worst thing you could do to someone. Play mind games with people and fuck with someone's head for extended periods. It's just fucked up. And I think a lot of people agree with that sentiment, whether it's through the political sphere or religion or non religion or whatever, man. People just want to have straight conversations with no fluff and no bullshit. That's the whole theme of this album in a nutshell. If I had a thesis statement, it would be just that. So it's my own personal yearning for a life free of that noise that I don't want in my life. That's just I don't know. It has an agenda, but it's not even like I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word. It's just I think it's more of a controlling feature. It plays back to the narcissism, how people are control freaks. They want to control every aspect of their lives and other people's lives and the messaging that goes out and all this language and all this stuff. I think it's a control thing because people are afraid to die. Everyone is. And as you get older and older, you lose a grip. You know you're going to die soon. Most people died in their 40s. Like not too long ago, the life expectancy was like probably 40 something. You know, maybe 100, 200 years ago, but that's not that long ago in the general scheme of, in the story of humanity. 200 years ago is like 5 minutes ago. So it is about control. That's what everything's about. And that is narcissism. Narcissism is about the ego and stuff, but it's really, I think, connected more to being a control freak because of fear, because of fearing your demise and other people that you don't trust. It's just all those tribal divisions play into that fear that it's hard to escape through a lifetime. It's very difficult. Even if you change religions, change your tribe, marry into a different culture, like you're just going to come across different tribal rivalries and different conflicts. And I'm not the right person to speak to this because I don't experience these cultural escapes. I don't really, maybe I did in college a little. Like I would try to learn about different cultures more. I was more open to going to like a Buddhist temple I did one time and seeing how different people define spirituality and peace of mind and try to find that ego-free life. And a lot of people point to Buddhist principles because I never knew that type of language. Like growing up Catholic, they don't talk about meditation or the ego or stuff like that. Yeah, it's a part of the conversation. But I think religions like that are more based on obedience and fear. And I feel like Buddhism kind of is the opposite. And maybe other faiths too, but I guess that's the one that kind of pops in my head. So it's cool to see how other people approach these things. And yeah, I said it a couple times through some of the earlier songs that everything's in constant chaos. It's just humanity does the best it can to really just develop a social organization, a social structure to deal with the chaos. Because, yeah, there's a lot of fucking people in the world, a lot of different worldviews, and a lot of different mind melds. And a lot of times people look at just the slimmest of differences, and that will cause some conflict. And that's a part of the narcissism, a part of the superiority complex that a lot of people have, that a lot of cultures have, that a lot of racial people have, that a lot of nationalities have, that superiority quest or whatever you want to call it. I think that plays into fear because most people's work like that. Most people's brains work like that when they fear that what's the fight or flight instinct, right? Like I guess that's what it plays into. And I think I'm trying to go down all these philosophical, psychological avenues in these lyrics, but I'll have to go back and read through it again to see if I accomplished that. I don't know. I'm more concerned about the actual music and how the transitions go. I feel like the words could always come later if I need to change a phrase or change a word. That's a lot easier than, well, how's this transition going to go from this guitar solo to this chanting? That's a lot more difficult in my brain, at least, to just remember how all these melodies go. That's way more heavy on the brain than oh, I have to change this word because it doesn't paint an image that I'm happy with. Like I feel like I could do that easily. So I'm not as concerned with lyrics at this point. Um, with really any of these songs, because I'm gonna go back after I do this and review what I've come up with so far and see how the flow of this album went. It started with a pretty satirical song. I'm a white, black, Latino, Asian, lesbian man. Like, it can't get more ridiculous than a song title like that. And this last song, it's a little bit more heavy. It's just called In Conclusion. I don't even know if I like that title. It sounds like it's the last song I'm ever going to write or something. So I don't like that. I plan to write a lot more music in my life. But maybe in terms of, maybe this is the last song I write with words. Maybe I just can finally develop into a more ambient type of artistry, which I want to do, but I keep going to these fucking words. I keep having to force myself to write fucking lyrics. I'm like so tired of lyrics. But, I'm not going to complain, man. Don't take this as me complaining. It's just my funny relationship with words, words in general. Um, because yeah, lyrics are so. I said I wrote this in 5 minutes, but it's painful to write lyrics because it's like I don't really care. I'm not trying to preach to people. It might come off as preachy, but like I'm sharing the Kinks' God's Children, which is a pretty, I guess. I don't think it's a pro-religious song. I think it's just a pro-nature song, really. I think it's more about Mother Nature. And listen to the lyrics of God's Children by the Kinks. I think it's one of their best songs. I don't know every Kinks album, but I know a pretty good amount. And I think that's one of their best songs. I don't know if it was originally released on that album, Lola versus the Power Man, whatever that's called. It might have been like another B side or whatever it's called. I'm not sure if it was on the original album, but it's really good, man. Listen to the lyrics, and it portrays this message of the same conflict today, that the battle of technology and nature, or can they survive harmoniously? Can we get to the point where we have reliable energy sources so you don't have to rely on foreign wars and all this other shit? Is the future going to be like that, or is it going to just be everyone killing each other because the resources dwindle down, and then whatever this climate change shit does, and people get displaced, and I don't know, man. The next generation will probably get way more involved with all these things that it seems like the media is preparing people for. But I don't know. A lot of it's fear mongering, but you never know what because it is chaos. Even without humans on the planet, it would still be chaos. We're not the cause of the chaos. We are a part of it. We have our role to play in the chaos, but I don't think it's only human beings. Like, I think we get to, as a collective species of humanity, we get to narcissistic, like we're the center of the universe. Because, yeah, we're building all these cities, so it's hard not to feel that way, like that we're in control of this fucking planet spinning through the universe. But if you really look at how nature works, yeah, human beings, we don't control shit. We just try to survive, that's it. But yeah, we don't control the atmosphere. We can just fuck it up, I guess. But it's a complicated conversation, and I feel stupid talking about stuff like this. But yeah, I think as a collective species, we're all narcissistic, whether it's as a nation or as an ethnic group or racial category or sexual orientation, all that stupid identity politics. It builds into that narcissism because there's a difference between having like pride in your heritage and the more sinister side of nationalism and stuff like that, which has been shown throughout history like that. But yeah, I think it's kind of a hard thing to balance sometimes because the media loves to play on that shit to divide people up like into these categories, just to divide people up, always constantly reminding people about what divides people, how we're different. And yeah, that's not very essential to your daily thoughts. I don't think it has to be a part of your daily thoughts. And yeah, as humanity evolves, all these things are going to disappear completely. Whatever humanity looks like in the future, in another generation or two, politics will not look like it is today because it's just not sustainable from an intellectual point of view. Um, it relies on people being stupid and being cowardly and being negligent, or is that the right word? Not paying attention. I mean, like if you don't pay attention to it, that's where I'm at. I'm not really paying attention to anything in the news, foreign or national front. I'm not paying attention to anything because it's just annoying, and that's pretty much what anyone in power would probably prefer that. Just keep the people ignorant and blind to anything we're doing. So there's no judgment. We don't have to vote on anything anymore. Just streamline it. Let the quantum computers just dictate what we do because they'll play the probabilities better than we can. I kind of had that vision that, yeah, the governments will be run by quantum computing. In a way, it's probably already true if in warfare and any type of negotiation to put your interest best in any kind of negotiation. I'm sure quantum computing is a part of that, whether it's a corporation or a country or, well, it's the same thing almost. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm not a fear monger like that. I don't fear AI or any of this shit because I feel like it's always been well, even before computers, since factories and industrial revolution, it's always been a theme about not displacing, but getting certain industries get rid of jobs, and then what are people left to do with their lives? Is there going to be what's it called, where everyone gets income, guaranteed income, whatever it's called? Is that going to be a way? And I'm stealing a lot of this from Joe Rogan stuff. I was listening to one of his podcasts with interesting guy, Billy Carson, and they went through like what would that look like if everyone got an automatic income or guaranteed income every week or month. What would that look like? Would people be more motivated to do stuff, less motivated? It's an interesting experiment. I think there's a town in California that actually experimented with the guaranteed income or basic income, whatever it's called. It was actually in the 60s, I believe Nixon was considering it for some reason. I forget. Uh, so at least everyone has a basic income. I don't know. There's different versions of it. I don't really know, but I'll try to share that story. Well, I'm going to share that Joe Rogan podcast since I mentioned him, and I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan stuff. His name was Billy Carson, I believe. And he talks about some crazy shit, but they do talk about that. I forget. They're probably talking about technology stuff. I usually listen to it off and on as I'm sleeping. It's probably why I come up with a lot of these weird themes in my songs like this. But it's really not that odd. I'm not coming up with new stuff, man. This has been the same type of science fiction, morality tale since the Twilight Zone. And when was that? Like in the 50s? So, it's a long time. People have been spreading this similar message. But it plays back to the Kinks song. And I might even share those lyrics because I really like that song from a lyrical standpoint. God's Children. I'll share those lyrics. There's a lot of themes that are similar to what I'm talking about. Maybe I can read some of them right now. Kinks, God's Children. Well, first I want to see what album. I know it was on the Lola album. No, actually, I got it from that album. It was like a double album when I got Lola versus the Power Man, but according to Google, God's Children was on the 1971 soundtrack album for the film Percy. I never heard of that movie, written by Ray Davies. It was released as a single and appeared on compilations. That's weird. I never knew this. But I don't know what that movie's about. But yeah, that's one of my favorite songs. The first time I heard it, I really liked it, and I learned how to play it on my acoustic. So man made the buildings that reach for the sky, and man made the motor car and learned how to drive. But he didn't make the flowers, and he didn't make the trees, and he didn't make you, and he didn't make me. And he's got no right to turn us into machines. Like, fuck, that's like everything. Every time I listen to a podcast about the singularity theory, or whatever the hell it's called, simulation theory, singularity, becoming one with machine. I forget who it was. Somebody had that theory that, yeah, maybe it was that Japanese physicist, Machi. I can't say his, I forget his name already. The guy I shared a couple days ago from Joe Rogan. I think he said humanity will have to make that choice in the future, that they either merge with machine, Michio Kaku, if I'm saying his name right, theoretical physicist. Yeah, I think he's the one that had that theoretical debate about the future. Every human being will have to make that decision. Do they want to merge with machines, whether you get some chip inserted, all that crazy conspiracy shit, or the internet becomes a part of your brain somehow, where you don't need to be hooked up to any wireless because you are the vessel for the internet, and all that information is a part of your uh, nervous system, or is the brain part of the nervous system? I don't know. I learned that when I was trying to be a nurse, but I think I forget. Whatever it's called, the internet will be a part of your humanity. There might be a different term for that. Well, the brain is the fundamental part of the nervous system. So, yeah. So, besides all the other shit, all your memories, all your creativity, I don't think that's an unbelievable concept that the internet or some kind of a connection to a larger mind meld will be a part of your brain chemistry at some point in the future. I don't think it'll be now or anytime soon because people will think it's like the coming of the Antichrist and shit. People always say that. uh, Obama became president. Some people were like, oh, it's the coming of the Antichrist. Trump becomes president. Oh, it's the coming of the Antichrist. It's like, it's such an overused thing to scare people. But I believe as humanity calms down with all the religious bullshit, um, at some point people might be more accepting of a man and machine type of hybrid. I don't know what it looks like. It sounds so stupid to think about a future like that. Man and machine come becoming one. It's so weird to think about. Inspector Gadget shit. I'd sign up for that. Yeah, I'd sign up for the Inspector Gadget life. But I don't know. I'll share the Kinks lyrics. That's where I was going with before I go on like a long tangent about this. But that's everything they're talking about in 1971. And what else? This song is pretty powerful to me. And yeah, you could read the lyrics. I'll share them when I put this on Substack. It's pretty simple lyrics, but it is very meaningful. So you don't need complicated poetry to get a message across. Lyrically, this is one of my favorite songs because it's about that battle of nature versus technology. I should be hiking right now, right? I could be hiking in some mountain range or working in some nature reserve and doing something like that. But right now, I choose to just be on my phone trying to create music or art or so I can actually make these one day. I don't think it's harmful to do what I'm doing. Like, I'm definitely, you could say I'm addicted to it, but I'm not using technology for anything bad. People, if I was doing this in the 60s or 70s, I'd be doing the same thing. I might have to use a tape recorder to speak these thoughts out loud or pen and paper to write down lyrics. But it's the same mode, it's just a different tool to use. The main difference being in the 60s, I couldn't write a song and share it with people on Substack or send it in an email to someone and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And get feedback and collaborate online where you could write, record, produce a song in like a week or a day or two, depending on how complicated it is. You don't need to go to a studio, spend whatever it is, $500 an hour to record a song or however thousands of dollars that a record label will loan you to record an album. You don't need to go that direction anymore. For a long time, it's been like that. So there's a lot of differences in convenience today as opposed to the 60s. But the general flavor of what I'm doing right now, because I'm not recording actual music, I'm not producing actual music, I'm just writing the lyrics and composing what I think will be the song structure and the elements that I hear. I think this album's more simple than the last one. The Carole King one, I was thinking about piano melodies and like string sections and stuff I'm not as familiar with. An album like this is much more straightforward, pretty much. Maybe there's some horn parts I was thinking of, and a song like this one would be the most complicated because it's all about making the transition sound so good, and that's maybe the hardest part of songwriting is to have those transitions that lead into a song and or lead into a different section of the song and provide a different element. That's very difficult. That's why a song like Bohemian Rhapsody is considered one of the best ever because it does it so perfectly. But maybe I'll think of other ones too. That's the main one that led to me trying to do this. But yeah, I don't think I'm definitely neglecting nature. I haven't been to like any kind of park or nature hike in a long time. I'm neglecting that side of things. Maybe I can get back to that at some point because I know it's important. I hear a lot of people talk about that stuff. Even artists that when they get stuck, they'll go for a walk and just disappear. And as they're doing that, it builds up something in their head that they weren't aware of. I haven't been working like that. I've been pretty much just waking up and going right to the song. For the last three albums, it's been like that. Yeah, definitely. So it's a different approach, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I wasn't sure how this would go today because I like to think positively, but a song like this is very complicated, and I'm not used to arranging a song like this. Like I could just imagine when NoFX when they wrote The Decline, like they must have had, and I think maybe I heard this in an interview that they had a big whiteboard and they had to put all the different sections on there to kind of I don't know, to memorize it or to just organize it, I guess. And I guess I should have done something like that prior to making this recording. But I figured I would just pause it as I would go in between different sections. So I'll go, I'm going to listen to this now and see how it came out in terms of the song at least. But that's it for this one. This was an album that started a week ago, and it was from the Jack White type of lineage of I'm a white, black, Latino, Asian, lesbian man. That song started it with a very bluesy southern rock type of feel, and I think it continued pretty well from that song. I don't think I got too distracted in terms of the influences, but there is kind of a punk hardcore song. There is kind of some funkier songs with horns and stuff. So I don't know. It was appealing to me to put the same influence on every track. For the last two albums, it was Carole King and it was Jack White. So those were the two people I was trying to conjure and trying to. I don't like using mimic. Mimic always comes up in my head, but I don't want to sing like somebody else. I don't want to play like somebody else. Mimic is not something that any artist should probably aspire to, any kind of mimicry, unless you're a mime. Then you can mimic shit. That's an art form. But yeah, in terms of why I list those influences, that's the style that I'm going for. The overall style of this album is the Jack White type of production and guitar heavy riff stuff. That would be the main ingredient. The Carole King album, the main ingredient was like piano ballads and I guess you can say sappy subject matter a little bit, but it got a little bit absurd as well. So that's all I mean when I list certain people like that. And I usually don't do that. That's the only two times I've really done something like that. Although that punk album I did, Why Are You Shooting at That Cow? I could have put Dead Kennedys on every song because they were the main driving force. Dead Kennedys and maybe Pennywise too. But yeah, I want to be 100% transparent. I never want to come across as being disingenuous or not paying tribute to music that led me to write stuff like this. I don't want to be accused of anything like that. And it's hard to know how much of a influence it is until these songs are actually produced. Like, what would I go in to say if I was going to do it like that? And I go into a studio and I'm like, to the producer, I'm like, yeah, I just want to sound like Jack White, man. I want to sound like White Stripes stuff, that type of production. I don't think I would say anything like that. I might say, like, that's a big influence on this album, but I don't want to sound like anyone else. I don't want to sound, in terms of the production or the music, I don't want to try to mimic anyone. That's how I started when I was a kid, though. Like, I would just try to mimic Bradley Noel and I don't know, maybe Green Day and stuff like that. Because, what are you going to do when you're 13, 14? You're just going to try to copy people that you respect as a kid. So, but, you have to develop your own voice, and I still haven't really done that. I kept saying that in my book that as as I was writing the albums and going through the influences, I was like, I need to find my own voice. I need to find my own voice. And it's tough to do that as a writer or as a musician or as anything, just as a human being. I always say individualism and individuality is the key to peace of mind. And I do believe that, but it's not easy because you're not always going to be the same thing. You're always going to change. So what is your individuality if you're still changing and evolving constantly? You're not going to be the same person even day to day. You're going to read something that's going to change your perspective, see something, an event not even connected to your life individually is going to happen, and it's going to reshape your mentality of whatever. So it's hard to think of things like that. You're not a static entity as a human being. You're always changing, shifting. You might have some hard-headedness when it comes to certain philosophical concepts, but I think survival is, as an individual especially, is to be unbiased and just kind of learn from your past experiences and know that there's still so much you'll never understand in life. Once you come to terms with that, it's easier to develop as an individual, as a free thinking monkey, because we're all just a bunch of monkeys with monkey brains. But if you accept that there's certain things you'll never understand, life, death, existence, consciousness, all these things that are never going to be explained by anybody. Maybe a quantum computer. Like, that's the ultimate science fiction thing, right? You build a supercomputer and then you ask the computer what the meaning of life is. I think somebody mentioned, it was a David Cross with Joe Rogan interview. I think he mentioned that Twilight Zone, and the computer said, like, the meaning of life is 44, which means like nothing, or I guess nothing. So yeah, it's weird because a computer, even a quantum computer, whatever it means, because it's just a matter of speed, right? Quantum computing, it's more just how quickly the computer can intake information and do calculations and do all this stuff. It's just a million times faster than computing as we know it. I think it's more a speed thing, really. Like, but knowledge is speed. Intelligence, speed is an element of that. How quickly you can learn something, how quickly you can code or interpret a language and stuff like that. If a quantum computer can do it in 2 seconds and it'll take you like 7 hours, well, you're obsolete at that point in terms of that. There's no comparison compared to that computer. It's going to take the human brain to do something in 7 hours, to design a blueprint of something, architecture, where you can feed some numbers into a computer, some calculations, and the computer could do the whole blueprint in like 5 seconds. Is that really? Should you feel like jealous of the computer's intelligence? No, I don't think so. It's just a tool. Do you want to hammer a nail with your hand or hammer a nail with a hammer? So I don't know why people are so afraid of, from the aspect of losing your job and losing what you might consider value in society, because a computer can do the job way more efficiently and less money, which is the most attractive thing to corporations, at least. You don't have to pay computers shit. You just need to upkeep, and that's it. Maintain them. But yeah, that's the future that I guess people do talk about as a type of fear mongering like that. But it's interesting. I don't know why I'm talking so much about this. Probably because I've listened to so many podcasts over the last few days about similar concepts, and there is a bit of that in this song specifically, and maybe throughout this album. Because how would you even program religion? Could you program religion into a computer? If you put, like, how do you interpret the Bible? Like, how would a supercomputer, like, what would their responses be to questions like that? I don't know. I had an idea for a screenplay like that, where in the future it'll be like some dystopian Blade Runner type of thing, where you could kind of develop and grow your own religions based on computer, um, with like the computing as your guide to how to manipulate the masses most efficiently and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that was one of my ideas for an episode of my series. But all right, I think I'm going to end it here. I'm over an hour again. This album was interesting. I don't think I'll be writing anything new for a while. I'm going to put this into my book and begin writing the book. I have the book outlined with all these albums since, what was the first one? I know I have 20 albums, but since about July or August. And I'm just calling the book The Hypothetic Poet Part 2. My life and lyrics continue 2025 to 2026. And the intro preface is actually a lyric from the song Waste by Fish. Don't want to be an actor pretending on the stage. That plays back into the mimic thing. Don't want to be a writer with my thoughts out on the page. Don't want to be a painter because everyone comes to look. Don't want to be anything where my life's an open book. That was the opening quote I selected, but I haven't written any of these prefaces yet. So, yeah, this journey has started with Maybe Aliens. Maybe Aliens was probably from the summertime last year. And then it went to Happy People, No Half Measures Part 2. And then everything I've written since I've lived here. Simulated Grace, Testifier, Digital Witchcraft, Tribute Velvet, Faith Healers, Fuzz from the Bates Motel, Fruit Bats in a Tent, Whatever, Character Studies, Cross-Dressing at Goodwill, Willie the Vegan, Culture Warts, The Humble Trip, Trabajo Duro y Sin Mierdas, Why Are You Shooting at That Cow, Some Jump from Planes, Wrath of the Bull. So that's 20 albums I've written since last summer. And some of them are only like 4 songs. Most of them are about 8 to 12 songs. And they're all over the place. There's a gospel album. There's a tribute to the Velvet Underground, that type of music. There's another rap album, some punk stuff. I think I want a lot of punk stuff. Culture Warts and Why Are You Shooting at That Cow? Cross-Dressing at Goodwill. Those 3 are very punk inspired. Those might be the only 3 though. And yeah, there's other elements in there. So I'm going to start working on all the prefaces, trying to see if I can outline what I want to talk about, what I want to write about in all these chapters. And yeah, it might take me like a good year to put this book together. Originally, I stopped at some point. I was going to start writing this book after Willie the Vegan. That was the 14th one, which I did over the winter time. And then I wrote that Culture Warts. And then from there, I just kept writing stuff. And I was like, fuck. But again, I'm saying that lightly. Like, yeah, I'm happy to write this stuff. It's way worse if you don't have anything new creatively. Am I being overly redundant with some of these albums? Maybe a little, but hopefully not. And anyway, it's redundancy is a weird term. Like, I'm trying to get as original as possible, and that's all I can do is shoot for that. And that is shooting for the moon, because being original is not easy. Being a unique artist is not easy, man, because you're just a collection of inspiration from stuff you liked throughout your life. Every time I write a song, I'm thinking, just like today, of where it's coming from. So is that being original, or am I mimicking Bohemian Rhapsody because I want to write a song like that in that structure? I don't think it is. If I was trying to copy the song completely, like, well, this is when Freddie Mercury goes to this tempo and then he changes it. You hear that tempo change? Like, yeah, I'm not going to try to listen to the song and dissect it from that technical perspective. I'm just trying to write a song that doesn't have any repeating segments. The verses, chorus, there is no chorus. There is nothing like that. It's just different parts throughout the whole thing. And I'll leave it here. I'm going to have to listen to this and really see how good of a job I was able to do. But yeah, that's the end of this album. I think it ends on a positive note. And yeah, if I make any other edits, I'll make sure I'll talk about that when I write the Substack post.